Chapter 4: The Contest. Light years away.
Are you finished posing dramatically out there? I think Terezi wants a turn.
Rose, enter. She's more than welcome. I've had my fill.
Feels good, doesn't it? Now get over here, we've got business to discuss.
Rose, render yourself more symbolically this instant.
Terezi, you too.
No thanks, I'm good. In fact, now that we're here, I can't imagine anything worse than sitting down with you two for another little chat. You've ruined the very concept of talking to the rest for the rest of my life.
Oh, come on. It wasn't really all that bad, was it? Dirk may be completely insufferable,
Thanks.
but we've had some pretty good times over the course of the journey, didn't we?
I'm struggling to think of any.
Oh, how you wound me.
3 years of anime plot analysis is enough to turn our relationship sour.
All right, that's fair. The anime was rather tedious,
Wow.
but I posit that it could have been much, much worse. At the very least, none of us succumbed to substance abuse. Or re-succumbed, I guess I should say. The perks of not having an appetite, or a liver, in my case. In yours, I'm actually not sure. Perhaps the underlying cognitive dissonance or trauma you were originally trying to distract yourself from is no longer a going concern? Or... no, wait. That's not right. I'm thinking of a different Terezi. Or maybe the different me is thinking of a different Terezi, and I'm just... it's much the same at this point. And I suppose I'm also prematurely ruling out the potential of anime functioning as an abusable substance. In which case, I've got very bad news for all of us. We may need to formulate a 12-step plan. Let me know if you show any signs of withdrawal.
Rose, oh my god. My point couldn't have made any more obvious if you sat on it. We may be in complete agreement about Dirk being a tedious nookwipe.
We are?
Shh.
But newsflash, you aren't actually any better. Soup without super doesn't come easy to my species. And yet, I somehow managed to spend a good chunk of our 3-year journey unconscious. That's how fucking tedious the two of you are. And the worst part is that neither of you actually had the decency to do anything legitimately awful. You just sit there and drone on, talking about things that don't matter and asking questions that don't have answers. We're on a new planet, seeing things which have possibly never been experienced before, and all you can think to do is to hold up in a cave and regurgitate complete pointless bullshit?
It's called philosophizing.
Well, it should be illegal as far as I'm concerned. Ugh! Stop calling her that! Okay, I'm done. Screw you both. I'm going to introduce some plants to the troll emotion we call terror.
Well, if you change your mind about the philosophy...
I won't.
Okay.
That was odd, even by Terezi's standards.
She's fine.
Doubtless. But wouldn't it be best to wait for her to return before discussing our future plans? Whether she likes it or not, she's a part of this goofy expedition.
She isn't a part of this, though.
A part of this?
This.
You mean she isn't a god?
She isn't a ruler. She isn't suited for it.
And we are?
Come on, you know that we are. But I think that we can present a pretty convincing case if need be.
So, you wanted to have a... How do you say that?
Dialectic? I'm not sure.
Okay, sorry. So you wanted to have a dialectic about it first, just to be sure. I'm game. Where shall our allegory begin?
Beg pardon?
Oh, come on. The cave? I have to say I'm a little disappointed in you. 3 years, and not once did I witness you replacing any parts of the ship. How are we to jerk ourselves off philosophically if you don't lean into your clumsy illusions.
It's a fair question, but since the name you suggested was nothing more than a very juvenile play on words, I can't say you've got much ground to stand on.
What's juvenile about the Kant?
Nothing, at least not when you say it.
It's not my fault you sound like a gay cowboy.
Ugh. See what I had to deal with? And yes, I'm still here. For the time being, I want to keep things brief, narratively speaking. Look, we can have this argument later.
I'll pencil it in.
For now, we need to talk about detritus.
I'd like to suggest a preliminary topic of discussion,
Shoot.
or rather, a point of constructive criticism. That name.
Yes?
It absolutely blows.
Okay. In the interest of open-minded discourse, I'd like to counter that by saying that I think it's pretty dope, but it's fine, we don't got to settle for that. Do you have any better suggestions?
No, I'm simply making an observation.
You could have at least come up with an alternative. Making shit is hard. I think having a good name for this planet is an important first step in telling its story, which is what we're here to do.
I agree. Names are potent symbols after all. I just think we have a different understanding of what a good name entails in this instance.
Huh.
To be clear, I think it's the perfect name for this place. It's just that when it comes to habitable planets, I think there is some unwritten law of our reality which dictates the name should be either boring
Like Earth,
or insufferable.
like Alternia or Before Us. Or Detritus, alright, I get it.
Insufferably boring gets you bonus points. I think that's partly the point of it. It's a name to be lived on, becomes a kind of furniture, so to speak. Or I suppose you could see it as a place of origin, the absolute zero point of like a family name. A name some people are always trying to leave behind, because it's the only way to be sure it's the dirt beneath your feet. Or I suppose, in a way, every planet is Earth.
Right, we're not going to call this planet Earth as well, though.
No, that would be far too cliche. Quadruple, quadruply so, even. Deltritus it is.
It's amazing how you managed to both shit on my idea and make it seem a lot better justified in hindsight.
Well, of course. I am an author. I ply my trade on well justified bullshit. Anyway, to business. Again.
Yeah. The point is, we will be building intelligent life on this planet from scratch. That was one of our key mistakes of Earthsea. We should have started our guidance from the very beginning, instead of letting it grow organically in our image.
I'm not sure I agree, but go on.
No, please, knock yourself out. We stayed on topic for a few seconds, and I'd hate to make it a habit.
Our own world was abandoned by its gods. Or I suppose, its gods never reached it. The trolls beat their game, but were unable to actually claim the reward and take their places in its pantheon. In a sense, our creators abandoned us. And while I can't say that our world developed well, I don't think it would have been better off being guided, especially considered who would have been doing the steering. Although I guess you can't prove that kind of negative statement. Anyway, what exactly are you proposing?
Ever heard of the watchmaker analogy?
Yes.
Damn, okay. Humour me anyway. Say you're an alien and you're walking on a beach, an Earth beach if that wasn't clear. You're an alien who has never come in contact with the human race before. So, say you're an alien and you find a pocket watch on a beach. You've never seen anything like it before, so you pick it up and open it and try to figure out how it works. You see all the gears moving smoothly, all the pieces fitting together in a flawless interlocking pattern. Looking at the face, you realise that it keeps perfect time. You, the alien, ask yourself, how could something so perfect, with a flawless form suited to its task, have come into being? And so the argument goes,
Someone created it. Time needed to be told, so a craftsman made something to tell it.
exactly.
This analogy always struck me as extremely contrived.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, how many fucking pocket watches does one usually stumble across on the ground randomly? Fuck it, who stumbles across a pocket watch anywhere? This isn't the goddamn 1800s, that point in history where people were famously tripping over errant clockwork every time they went outside.
And don't forget, there are aliens in this version of history too.
Yeah, I think I might have made up that part though, probably wasn't part of the original. Although, considering the version of Earth's history I was familiar with, I guess the aliens ended up being the most believable thing in the whole setup.
I suppose, in a way, this argument's own existence fulfills the same philosophical premise as the analogy itself. It's a scenario perfectly suited to its function, which is to convince you of the existence of intelligent design, one that is so unlikely to have arisen by chance that the presence of an artificer is the natural conclusion. It's this weird spiral of a concept, really. Its creators all the way down.
Yeah.
But I guess my response here would be that this is an argument in favor of intelligent design being a factor in the creation of a universe. It's not an argument that intelligent design should be a factor in the creation of a universe. That's a question of morality.
True, but if intelligent design is a reality, and I think our experiences indicate that, yeah, there's a pretty good chance, then wouldn't failing to continue it be an abdication of our responsibility? If we can order this world and we fail to, is that really any worse than smashing the watch ourselves? You don't want to be responsible for screwing it up, and I get that, but failing to act isn't any more morally justifiable than acting wrongly.
So it's really a moral argument that you're making. It sounds like we've detoured into the trolley problem here. Or maybe derailed is a more appropriate descriptor. I hope nobody is tied to the tracks of this conversation, at least.
Rose, you're avoiding the question. You came to this planet, you saw us in your mind's eye and chose to come here, more or less. Wasn't that because, on some level, you wanted to have a hand in its future?
Maybe. At least, I think so. For coming against the reality of what we're proposing to do here. In the sense that I'm not quite sure how to even go about making that kind of calculation. I want to create something wholly new, something that's ours. But I can't help wonder, what right do the two of us specifically have to do that?
We won the game though. We're literally fucking creators. We have as much of a right as anyone possibly could.
I'm not sure I feel good about putting that victory on my resume, especially not since so much luck was involved, while the conclusion was simultaneously determined from the very beginning. A paradox which is typical of the complete mess that is our lives, and which possibly makes no sense to anyone but us. I suppose that's the point I'm trying to make. We quite possibly know more about our reality than anyone ever else could, which you could say makes us plenty qualified. But it's that self-same knowledge that tells me that maybe nobody could ever be qualified for this kind of creative endeavor.
She's avoiding the question again. It's amazing how one can technically have the maximum amount of metaphysical personal awareness possible and still not notice these sorts of things. It's stuff like this that makes me wonder sometimes whether there's anything about myself I'm missing. Then I throw that wonder in the garbage can and turn the incinerate setting on. That was a little bit of ironic self-deprecation on my part. I know that recently I made a habit of simply discarding things as a pointlessly difficult or irritating, or if you're so inclined, uncomfortable. It's something I learned in order to cope with, well, never mind. It's better this way, and I'm not going to air my trauma or whatever in front of you all. The point is that knowing about it doesn't mean that I don't do it, and nor would it necessarily make it easier for me to stop if I wanted to. Personal failings, if you can call this one, don't work that way. I would know. I also know Rose is probably just the same. She sees it happening and can't stop it, and takes a strange pride in knowing herself so well. And at the same time, she feels hurt to be so utterly predictable to herself. But that's a pain that you have to lean into when presented with a sum total of all possible self-knowledge. I suppose it's actually kind of answered the questions about ultimate self-awareness. Damn, did we just identify and then immediately solve a mystery in the space of a few paragraphs? I think we might have. Good work, us.
Even so, I want to do this. I have to want it. How could I not after everything we gave up to make it happen? Walking away at this point would be. Well, regardless, we don't have the option. The thesis is total. I almost want to make a joke about it. I almost want to make a joke about us not getting it insured, although I'm worried it might indicate what Dave would call early onset responsible adult syndrome.
It's easy for him to make fun of us. He's immune.
Possibly. He certainly wasn't showing any symptoms at his last checkup, but that was well over 3 years ago at this point.
Rose looks off into space, seeming to exist at a very great distance for a while, and then, at a perfectly calculated moment, she chuckles quietly, almost mournfully to herself.
I'm rambling again.
Told you so. It's okay. I'm sure there was some good reasoning buried fuck deep in there somewhere.
Future archaeologists will unearth it eventually.
It sounds like you've made up your mind, though.
Maybe. I'm.
She hesitates again. Not sure? Oh, come on, Rose. Yes, you are. You know this is what you want to do. More than that, you know that it's the right thing to do. Might as well get us over with.
Fine.
Excellent. What? Don't look at me like that. She was already on board with it in all but name, and we both know it. So why waste our time? You've got better things to do, and as of right now, so do Rose and I. I cordially invite you all to fuck off with your judgmental attitude, by which I mean fuck off right back here because we've still got some important exposition to deal with.
You mentioned playing a game together. I take it that this is involved somehow.
Bingo.
And I take it you have a format to play in mind as well?
Yep. So I guess the basic premise is, yeah, we could establish a new civilization on Deltritus, cook up a new freakish alien species and steer them towards playing the game at a distance using the command terminal. It would certainly be a challenging application of our combined skills, but it doesn't strike me as being all that fun by itself.
For clarity's sake, the second game you're referring to here is the game that we played 10 years ago. Spurb. Or Scrub, I guess. Whatever it'll be called this time around.
Yeah, that's the game. Gotta be careful with those capitals. The game between the two of us is going to be different. I propose that we turn it into a contest of sorts. Each of us takes responsibility in creating our own separate species, each with their own design, society, and culture. Then we pit them against one another to see which will ultimately play the game.
For the love of God, please let's call it something else. If only for the sanity-furring memories of memes long past.
That's our culture you're talking about. Have some goddamn respect.
Actually, it was my culture. I think it's more accurate to say that you appropriated it 400 years later.
You're right, I'm sorry. Me culpa.
I regret everything.
Bullshit aside, that's a contest I'd like to propose. 2 gods, 2 species, 1 copy of the game. We have a lot of time to kill before it's ready to play. Might as well have some fun in the meantime.
I'm intrigued.
That's good. Intrigued is good.
I have a few questions before we begin. First and most pressing, how do you propose we go about doing this? What are our raw materials? Unless you're planning on giving me a rib, I'm not sure what we are going to work for.
That's fair enough. There doesn't appear to be anything in the way of animal life on this planet for us to use. But that's not important. We've got all the raw material we need already. Quite literally, in fact. We're going to make the new species out of us.
I see.
Don't worry, it doesn't imply actually breaking our cells down into usable matter or anything like that. What I mean is, we have 2 humans worth of genetic material to start from, and, more importantly, a technology to use that material to synthesize something new.
So, ectobiology then?
That's part of it, yeah? Let's take this into the lab.
The lab.
Yeah. It's just another fucking cave, okay?
This cave has a lab-like ambiance, I'll give it that. And I've seen a few labs in my time.
Sweet. It's got the Lalonde witticism of approval. No wonder could be higher.
I'm sure I could have come up with something better if I wasn't still internally reeling at the prospect of us becoming our own biblical progenitors.
Yeah, the old bearded man in the sky wishes he had one of these babies, though.
All he had was heterosexuality and a very long con. Although, I guess they're both essentially the same thing.
Oh shit.
There's something so delicious about the two of us being the ones to populate an entire planet from scratch. The irony doesn't get much sweeter.
How quickly you learn, my child. I am so proud of you. Anyway, that horseshit aside, it turns out that basically all the equivalent that Spur gave us can be integrated into one device, with the ability to form both alchemical and exobiological functions. The idea is pretty simple. We each contribute our own genetic sequences in the form of paradox lime, and then use this as a base to graft new material onto, using alchemy.
Doesn't that strike you as a little,
What?
you know, incestuous slurry adjacent?
Oh, that shouldn't be an issue. We're each going to be keeping our slime to ourselves.
How courteous.
In any case, after the base material is collected and the alchemical mix is finalized, we rapidly accelerate the development of the synthesized life forms to a point at which they can form a society of sorts.
So, in theory, what the mayor and his associates did on Earth C, but just larger in scope, instead of staying within the framework of a species that already exists.
And here, we won't be waiting thousands of years for the development to happen in real time. This plays to our advantage in more ways than one. For one thing, it's pretty clear that we aren't going to get this right on our first try. I've been conceiving of this as a long game of many individual moves, each of us building and advancing in response to the concepts thrown out by the other. Think of it as collaborative world building.
All those D&D nights on the meteor finally turned to my advantage. Okay, I think I understand the premise well enough. Why don't you start things off? Roll the first die.
Alright, sweet. First things first, getting a hold of myself. There's about 15 different unfunny jokes we can make about that, but let's just fucking chill for once in our goddamn lives.
Agreed, and I'll make no mention of you sucking yourself in any capacity.
God shitting damn it. Next step is adding mutations. We can use any old shit for this. Literally any capture-loggable object can be added into the mix by inserting its card into one of the slots here, and by using a combination of ands, ors, and so on, we can apply the science of alchemy started of exobiology, alchemical biology, if you will. In the original process of breeding the Genesis frog, we'd be doing kind of the opposite, screening out distortions in his divine genetic waveform, so to speak. Here, we're adding noise directly, deliberately, kind of like genetic spargification. Inside of this machine is one big artificial genetic infidelity bonanza.
Dave would approve.
Sup?
I thought you had to punch the cards to use them in the shunt slots. I recall devising a sequence of analogies for the process in my walkthrough once upon a time. Hardly my best work, but the principles were sound.
No, you're right.
I was being politely self-effacing, Dirk. You didn't have to agree with me.
About the holes in the cards, I mean. I'm not really sure why we didn't do that anymore. I think this machine punches the cards with the correct pattern once you put them in, although the implication is that it somehow reads what is on the card in order to punch it with the holes which enable it to read that same information.
That sounds like an appropriate degree of profound ridiculousness. I love it.
Yeah, I'm a bit surprised you remember anything about this shit, even though we can't technically forget anything anymore.
Me too. It's amazing what pieces of inconsequential information your mind can recall at a moment's notice, a whole decade after they were last relevant or interesting to anyone. I think I missed this.
Okay, that should be everything taken care of. This will be my first move, the opening gambit in the grand game of fate for this planet. All that remains is to see the result.
Indeed. Press the button, Doctor. Dirk, push the button.
Ecto-alchemologize. Behold. My creation.
Dirk and Rose, behold.
Ecto-alchemologization complete.
Dirk,
What the fuck?
Rose.
game on.